The STEAM team is a concept that I've honestly always hated. Thomas being an ensemble show really helped it stay fresh in the early days, and to see the show become what it was trying to differentiate itself from is really disheartening. In Season 8, the show introduced a concept known as the STEAM team. It consisted of Thomas, Edward, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, Toby, and Emily. As I'm sure you all know, Duck was originally considered for the 8th slot, but thankfully he was cut. Yes, I said thankfully. I personally don't think Duck has or ever did have main character energy. Anyway, I'm going to be ranking every member of the STEAM team from worst to best. Quick disclaimer, this list is only going to be covering the characters' portrayals from Season 1 to Season 21. No Railway Series or Big World. I also won't be counting Nia, Rebecca or Stanley in this list as well. I just don't think they really qualify. But if they were included, all three of them would be in dead last. Let's go. Coming in last place is Emily. Emily is such a frustrating character for me. On the surface level, she's a character who in theory should be really interesting. It's just annoying that they never did anything particularly compelling with her until 2013. Yeah, I know I've praised Season 7 Emily before on this channel, but in hindsight, she's honestly kind of bland. She's just a generic nice character with a good moral compass. I think one of Season 7's biggest missteps, and come to think of it, the entirety of the hit era, was instantaneously pairing up the new characters with Thomas. Like, yeah, Thomas is the main character and I get that, but having to revolve the newbies' introduction stories around their relationship with Thomas is really constricting. This is something that the hit era Emily actually did better in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, her being paired with Henry was a really cool idea, but once again, all this does is reinstate that Emily is a nice engine. Something we've already been shown in this season twice before. Now, just because Season 8 expanded Emily's character more doesn't mean that it did it well. Emily in the hit era is nothing short of infuriating. In an absolutely shining moment of genius from Hit, they decided to make their main core female character a fundamentally dislikable, bossy, rude prick. Why would you do that? Gone were the days of Emily being a caring maternal figure to the engines with some room for character development. They did a complete 180 on the character and made her someone who actively enjoys bossing other engines around. I'm not going to spend ages on her persona because it literally doesn't change in any of the seasons. She's outwardly rude towards Trevor in Season 8 and then gets redeemed. Cool. She's realised that she needs to be nice. In Calling All Engines, she's outwardly rude towards Thomas, but eventually grows fond of Thomas and she's friends. In Season 9, she thinks she's a queen and believes she knows best, but eventually she learns that everyone's equal. In Season 10, Emily is rude to Diesel. You get what I mean. Now, of course, this isn't an issue that is exclusive to Emily, and I honestly kind of feel bad for her as she was introduced at a really awkward time and I don't think she was intended to be a main character during Season 7's production. And then she was just thrown into the mix and her character got assassinated. But I mean, hey, the game was the game and she took an L here. Now, CGI Emily is a different story. Nitrogen Emily was literally just an NPC that somehow managed to find herself in the main cast. She's honestly kind of endearing in that respect, as the writers clearly have no idea what to do with her, so they just wrote story ideas and then chose the main character at random. Now, the Brenner era is where Emily shines the most in my opinion. Her first major role was in No Snow for Thomas, which was essentially just Thomas and Emily in the snowplow, but done right. In this version, instead of telling off Thomas about his snowplow in a bossing manner, she actually cares about Thomas's well-being and wants to ensure his safety. And even while being quite self-conscious of her snowplow at first, she cleans up Thomas's branch line and ends up taking Annie and Clarabelle while Thomas is still in his shed. And it's not even in a rude manner or anything. She's perfectly chirpy about it and doesn't rub it in. Now, Season 18 is where it kinda loses me. In both of her major appearances this season, she is portrayed as a selfish and scared child. Yeah, nah. I can take Emily being scared shitless in Halloween because the events that unfold in that episode are actually kind of unnerving, but here it's just really silly. Emily is not the kind of character to believe one of Salty's stories, and the fact that it's her and Henry who are the ones that are scared is so annoying. Season 19 onwards was a huge step up in my opinion. Best Engine Ever is easily her best episode. It's honestly insane to me that it took them 12 years to make Emily a genuinely compelling character and to show us a new side to her. I also love the pairing of her and Caitlin. They seem like characters who would genuinely be friends and not some corporate manufactured BS. Season 21 also had a really great Emily episode with Dowager Hat's Busy Day. I know she's not the focal point of the episode, but she's a secondary main for sure. And I also like how she's the one who speaks up to the authority figure when something is wrong. It's a really nice parallel to What's the Matter with Henry. Emily in the Middle is a really weird one though. Emily is characterised fine in that episode as she's really just the voice of reason, but I have to say this, I hate how the twins are characterised in this. I know this isn't a unique criticism to make with the Brenner era, but the twins are so flanderised in this episode, they're just reduced to angry Scottish engines. Aren't these guys supposed to be really close and no-nonsense brothers? And yet they're physically pushing each other on the main line. I hate the Brenner era sometimes. Anyway, Emily overall is a character who really hasn't ever stood out to me. It's weird because as a kid, she was a toy that I always wanted, and yet when I play with her, I always created a completely made up personality for her, which I know for a fact is something that I didn't do with characters like Thomas, James or Gordon. Like I mentioned before, Emily is a character who suffered from being introduced at a really bad time, and the circumstances she was put under made her a character with no real identity. And that's a real damn shame because she could have been something great. Up next is Percy. Now before I go any further, I want to make this very clear. From here onwards, I love all of these characters. You have no idea how hard it was to narrow down this list. It's like Audrey said, these characters are like our kids and we don't choose favourites. Except in this instance, I am choosing a favourite. Yeah, I'm going to be that kind of parent. Percy is a character who I just find hilarious. Bro is such an innocent being, and he gets absolutely violated at every given moment. Like, bro, what did he do? On another note though, Percy's development from season 1 through 5 goes really underappreciated. He turns from a little scamp into a cynical yet brave little guy who's got a lot of bite in him. Season 1 Percy is just an ass. He's Thomas if he just skipped the Thomas and Gordon storyline and just went straight to free roam and then immediately got put in his place. Season 2 Percy, and just season 2 in general, is him being fed up with life and looking for someone to unleash his anger on. He's still quite attached to Thomas in regards to who he is as a character, but it's in season 3 that he really grows into his own. He tells off Mavis when she's chatting shit about Toby, and he gives her advice. He tries to calm down Thomas when he gets upset, and in season 4, he was there. And in season 5, wow, he gets put through the ringer, and yet despite all of the anger he's been in, he doesn't hesitate to help out Toby when he's in danger. Season 6 and 7 though are where things start to get quite rocky though, I must say. They're not awful representations of him, and there are some shining moments, but overall the Ghislaine era is a really watered down Percy with many cracks showing. Hit era Percy is just that really awkward middle child that you don't know what to do with. There are moments where he's perfectly in character.
Too busy, the famous artist sighed. Why, I do believe there's nothing special to paint on this island at all. Percy was so cross his boiler bubbled. Everywhere on Soldor is special, and so are the people and the children and the engines. We are all special. Then he wheeshed some steam.
And then there's episodes like The Green Controller where he is so unbelievably out of character that it's not even funny. Percy had his best and worst moments in the CGI series. On the one hand, Tyler the Brave has one of my favourite Percy interpretations ever, and then you also have episodes like the Three Steam Engines Gruff. I've got to say though, CGI Percy is easily my favourite Percy in regards to his quippiness. He's honestly more lovable than ever in the Brenner era. He's just straight vibes. While not without sin, CGI Percy isn't all that bad. Overall, Percy is just solid all round. He's got some really bad moments, but thankfully he's also got some of the best. Up next is Edward. Edward is a pretty simple character to talk about, all things considered. Because despite his butchering in the hit era, he stayed pretty consistent, all things considered. He's also a character who doesn't really go through a conclusive arc during the first 5 seasons, and don't get me wrong, it makes complete sense. I don't think Edward needs an arc of any kind, as he's a character who's just been through it all. It's because of this though that I can't place him any higher than this. Like, I love Edward, but he's not the most compelling main in the show past the classic series. I don't really have much to say other than he's just a great character. Next one. Kicking off the top 5 is Toby. Toby is such a vibe of a character, I love him so much. While his Railway series counterpart is far superior, the TV series Toby is still a wonder to watch. Truth be told, I've never really found Toby that interesting in season 1, he's just kind of a guy that exists, you know? Season 2 greatly improved upon this, and by the end of the season you really learn to love him. Him being a mentor figure to Percy and him having a neutral stance on the Thomas and Percy rivalry is also utterly fantastic. Season 3 is definitely Toby's best season in my opinion. Him being challenged by Mavis's demeanour is a really interesting character study, as up until this point, at least from what we've seen on screen, he's only really been a mentor to Percy, who in comparison to Mavis is a much easier person to mentor. The fact that Toby is instantly opposed to helping Mavis at first is hilarious to me, and the fact he probably only did it because he would get in trouble with the Fat Controller is even better. With that being said though, Toby was really iffy in the following few seasons. Season 4 Toby is just kind of odd to me. His one quote-unquote spotlight episode is the worst of the season, and his role in Bullseyes was fine? I don't know man, that was just a really weird Toby era. Season 5 was a drastic improvement, with Toby showing some of his cheeky game which I love. And his mentorship with Percy still being a thing all these years later is a really nice touch. Season 6 and 7 Toby were pretty good, not much to say there. And then we get to season 8 through 16. Oh boy. Toby is just straight garbage post season 7. Minimal redeeming qualities here. There's like one good moment in Emily Knows Best where he laughs in her face when she says she knows best. That was kind of cool, but yeah, nah, this wasn't it. Even in the Brenner era, Toby was never really the same. I don't really know how to put it, but Toby is such an odd character in the post-season 7 era. He's in the theme song, and yet he's barely a main. And yet whenever there's a big meeting, he's just shoved on the siding next to Tidmouth. He's very clearly there out of obligation, and it's abundantly clear that the writers didn't want anything to do with him. I love classic Toby, but I can't say the same for him past that. In 4th place is the man himself, Thomas. Thomas is a really hard character to discuss because he is easily the most messy character out of them all. The first 7 seasons gave him an amazing arc, which I'll go into in a minute, but post season 7, he's just broken. One day he'll be really nice, one day he'll be a complete dick, and the next day he'll be completely stupid. And then the day after, he's the voice of reason. Like, what? Like I mentioned before, I felt this at the fact that Thomas was constantly at the forefront of the show. From, say, season 9 onwards, whenever there was a new character introduced, Thomas was there. Whenever the Narrowgauge Engines had an episode, Thomas was there. Whenever Hit came up with a new toy idea, Thomas was there. And every time he was there, his character had to be twisted and manipulated to make the story fit, leading to him being no more than a poster boy with nothing completely concrete to define him anymore. Going back to the classic series, I have to give them a huge applause, because despite Thomas not being in the books a whole lot, they managed to give Thomas a somewhat coherent arc from season 1 through 7. Gone were the days of Thomas being an annoying little shit. He's now a grown and mature character who gives James of all characters good advice. There were naturally some slip-ups here and there, but considering they stopped using the Railway series as a basis post-season 4, I'm surprised they managed to make Thomas's transition seem pretty believable. Now, the CGI series actually started off really well with Thomas's character. Hero of the Rose might just be my favourite interpretation of Thomas, bar season 5. Thomas is such an inherently good person here, and it's not in a way that makes me roll my eyes or anything. Thomas just simply wants to help this poor guy, and utilises the trust that he has in his friends to make Hero's dream come true. Now, Thomas believing that Fat Hat would scrap Hero still doesn't check out for me. After all this time, Thomas should know that. I know Hero asked him directly not to tell him, but like, come on man. Anyway, despite the incredibly strong start, CGI Thomas fell off instantly. Thomas is just simply stupid in this era. His IQ was completely sliced in half, and he became completely and utterly unlikable. At least for me. Blue Mountain Mystery is of course an exception, and I love his portrayal in that film. Just thought I'd put that out there. The Brenner era naturally made things a lot better. I really enjoyed the innocent yet surprisingly brave and bold Thomas of this era, especially in Tale of the Brave and Lost Treasure. God, those films are so good. However, the show at this point greatly suffers from shoehorning Thomas in everywhere, making his mere presence at times infuriating. The Brenner era also, in my opinion, gave Thomas, how do I put this, unnecessary depth, if that makes sense. What I mean by this is the whole message of the Great Race is built upon being who you are and going far, but like, I don't think Thomas is the kind of character to have that issue. I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like they had to have a moral to the story, and so they gave Thomas a hurdle to get over, which resulted in not only a half-baked movie, but a half-baked attempt at giving Thomas depth that wasn't particularly necessary in the first place. Maybe I'm in the minority when I say that, I'm not sure, but let me know in the comments. Kicking off the top 3 is Gordon. Gordon is a character that is just simply so compelling. He's a jerk a lot of the time, but when he's in the spotlight, you find yourself rooting for him just as much as you would for a character like Edward or Henry. And I think that's the magic of Gordon's character. There's always a way to make him sympathetic. I think one of the best examples of this is the episode It's Good to Be Gordon. This episode, despite being extremely inaccurate and breaking continuity, is completely carried by Gordon's underlying care for other engines. See moments like Gordon teaching Percy how to pull coaches, Gordon mentoring Thomas and forming an alliance after they were both in disgrace, and then actively defending Thomas and Hero of the Rails, him cheering on Edward after realising he's genuinely trying his best. It's those little moments that make me love Gordon. And all of that culminates into this moment where Gordon is about to break his record, but instead of going to take the glory, he stops, and then goes back to help Henry. It's not even as if he only just started feeling bad for him. We see earlier on in the episode that he's concerned for Henry's well-being from the start. Deep down, this guy's a teddy bear, and I just know it. Gordon is also surprisingly consistent in the TV series. Of course, Nitrogen is Nitrogen about things, but honestly, he's pretty good throughout. Just missing out on the top spot is James. To me, James is a character who, at least in my eyes, very clearly has a level of underlying sadness to him. He never shows it in the series, but I'm fairly sure that James is putting on a facade of him being this high-level prestigious engine. He definitely believes that he's the shit, but he simply isn't. He's an inherently good person whether he wants to believe it or not. He definitely has his moments of being a shitty person. Tale of the Brave is the main example that I go to. But yeah, James is an engine that despite all the front that he puts up, he's insecure as hell. Anyway, I'm not going to dive too deep into that as I could be here forever, but in regards to James in the show, he's easily the most consistent out of them all. He's got some stinker episodes for sure, but this persona is always consistent. And I think the situations that James is put in are the moments that bring out the fruitfulness in his character and makes him shine. James is such a dynamic character. I love it. But coming in at first place is Henry. Is Henry the most inconsistent character? Yes. Is he the most butchered character? Yep. Is he the best Thomas character? You fucking bet he is. I don't know if it's just my sympathy for him that made me put him at number 1, but I connect with Henry on such a personal level. I know this is a very common thing to say, but Henry instantly became my favourite character after watching the episode Henry's Forest. Simply a masterclass in storytelling. Henry to me is a character which I believe embodies what people call the indomitable human spirit. Perseverance on a long-term basis. Think about the amount of times that Henry has been messed over, and every single time Henry comes back from it, stronger than ever. He didn't always believe that he could do it, but you bet your ass he did it anyway. Henry coming out on top is such an unbelievably satisfying sight. More than anyone else, he deserves to win.